Hello, good afternoon. Molt bona tarda. Très bon après-midi pour tout le monde. Welcome and thank you for joining this event organized by the Catalan delegation to the EU from the Catalan government. And here today, we want also to thank especially to Marina Borrell, our colleague from the government in Barcelona, who has accepted our invitation to participate in this webinar today. And this debate we're going to have about traveling to Catalonia, we solve your doubts. This webinar is also addressed, and we want to share this information with all the people who are willing, who would like to travel to Catalonia, not only in the recent weeks, but also in the following months. But of course, we all have all these uncertainties provoked by the COVID crisis. Catalonia has been traditionally a destination for people from Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, mainly for holidays and for this tourism in summer. But also when we talk about business or trade, so it's a traditional destination for people from the Benelux. This current COVID-19 crisis has completely changed the way we travel and all the mobility and all the way we behave in public has been completely modified, altered. And today we want to also talk a little bit about that and know how what we have to expect when we arrive to Catalonia. We want to explain how travelers from here, from Belgium, from Netherlands and Luxembourg, can reach Catalonia by plane, by train, on the road, and what they may expect when they arrive. Mainly when these last days also, you already know that there has been an increase of people affected in a place, very focused place in the western of Catalonia, in 10 municipalities from the county of Segrià, in the province of Lleida, in the interior. And of course, we also want to share with you all the information and answer all the doubts and questions you may have, and of course, give you some more certainties and security on your travel to Catalonia. And mainly, we want you again to invite to come to visit Catalonia, to enjoy the beaches, the mountain, the landscape, the gastronomy, the culture, and all the people that of Catalonia that are expecting and waiting for you. Before I give the floor to Marina, I would like to ask all the people that are joining us today to keep mute all your micros. And of course, I invite you to participate and ask your questions on the chat on the YouTube channel so that it will be easier then for us to organize the debate and answer your questions. Thanks again to all you all for joining today this event, and I hope it will be fruitful and we will be able to answer all your doubts and your questions. And now, Marina, dear Marina, Mrs. Borrell, I give you the floor.
Hello, good afternoon, bona tarda, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the delegate, Mrs. Serret, and all her team for inviting me over to this webinar. It's such a pleasure actually to be here with all of you today. And hopefully we'll be able to resolve a lot of questions I'm sure that you may have regarding your future travels to Catalonia. As Mrs. Serret was advancing, like I work for the Department of Foreign Action here in Barcelona, in our headquarters in Barcelona. And for one of the things I'm responsible for actually is to look after or to assist all those citizens that find themselves in a situation of emergency whilst they are abroad. So as you may imagine, I've been really busy these last 3-4 months. Just to very briefly do an overview of numbers, like we've been we've been helping out around 3,000 citizens in 108 countries. So really, like in every corner of the world, we've been trying to helping someone to get back home. As you well know, like during the, with this pandemic, the COVID pandemic started, like many countries like close their borders, close their airspace. There started to be a lot of restrictions, entry and exit restrictions. So obviously a lot of people found themselves trapped in those countries, and we needed to find a way for them to come back home. So we've been very busy. Luckily now and from July, restrictions are starting to get a little bit more relaxed, particularly in Europe. As you know, from the 1st of July, all the rules for entry in the different countries have been a little bit more flexible. At the moment, all the movement, like the freedom of movement, has been reestablished within all the EU countries for all those nationals and residents of EU countries, and also the Schengen space. And on top of it, on the 3rd of July, the European Union also decided on a list of an extra 15 countries, what we call third countries, which is our non-EU countries, which also were allowed to have this free entrance. However, it's also, these are recommendations, and at the end of the day, every country, every state has their own rights to also put their own restrictions if they consider that's what they have to do for the safety of their citizens. And obviously, to enter into the Spanish territory, there's a few restrictions that you have to bear in mind as well if you're thinking to come to Catalonia. So today we will do a little bit of an overview of that. I will be waiting for your questions, so then we can go step by step. And then obviously, if there's any important information that was left out, we can kind of catch up later with it. Also, as an initial warning, I would like also to let you know that any information that I might be providing today actually is just the information, the rules and the restrictions that are published to date. But I'm not going to lie to you, like every day we are seeing changes in the situations of our countries, and there's like new rules coming out, new restrictions coming out. So it might be that there might be like a few changes like in the next days, perhaps not, but there is a possibility that there is. So I just want to kind of clarify that anything that we explain today is how the rules and restrictions are today. Okay. So well, from me, that is a little bit all. And if you think it suitable, we could start with your questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Marina, for this brief introduction, but necessary. And of course, we have a very first question from Susana Lydia, and she was wondering what may happen to somebody that is requested to begin confinement, or that arrives when people arrive to either Catalonia or either Belgium, if they have to fill in some kind of brief formula or questionnaire, so that they are demanded also to be compromised to answer what the healthy authorities may demand to us. Could you explain us what are currently all those demands?
Absolutely. So first of all, just to let you all know that if you are a national or a permanent resident of any EU country, you are not going to have absolutely no problem to enter in Spain. You know that there's actually no restriction with that regards. And once you actually land, you're going to be basically you're going to be requested to do this control. As you land, there are going to be two kind of controls. One of them is going to be a temperature control, and the other one is going to be a visual checkout. So basically, with those checkouts, they are going to see if there's something that they need to be worried about. Obviously, if your temperature is too high, if they see any signs that you might be infected, then they would basically start what they call the quarantine protocol. In these situations, usually like what the quarantine usually is 14 days, so they will require you to provide an address and to tell the authorities where you're going to spend this quarantine. On top of that, before arriving to the country, you're also going to be requested to fill up a form. Actually, I'm going to share a screen very briefly with you so you can see exactly what this form is. I hope all of you can see it now. So as you can see, like just before traveling or just as you arrive, you are going to be requested to fill up this form, okay, and to send it or to give it to the border control officer that is going to be there doing the border control. In there, like, you're going to have to explain a little bit, like, where you come from, where you're going to stay, like, so basically, like, they know where you're going to spend, like, your stay. And obviously, another thing that is an optional thing is, if you have already, for example, had a checkout about, you know, to know if you're infected, if you have had the COVID or not, this is an optional that you can also present this document as well. I mean, it's not mandatory, but if you have it, as I say, you know, it's one more document that shows up that you are totally healthy and you are not going to present any kind of threat to any to the safety of any citizen in here.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And now we have, sorry, we have a question from Gemma Riera, and she was wondering which are the general rules to wear face mask. Where should people wear face masks in Catalonia? If you could answer that.
At the moment, the rules is like everyone has to wear a mask in every single situation, okay? The exceptions basically are obviously if you're at your home, in your private home, if you are doing any kind of sport, and if you are somewhere eating or smoking. Obviously, if you are sitting down and having, you know, some meal, obviously you need to take it off, like, it's common sense. So these are the rules. And on top of that, if there's anyone that has any medical condition, any breathing condition that, you know, that they can obviously, like, also certify it from their doctor, that would be another exception for not to wear it. But as I said, it has to be, like, demonstrated by a medical certificate.
Perfect. And we have also a question in this case from Ignacio Ferrer. He's wondering on the way round. He's wondering if somebody's traveling by car to Belgium, if he will be stopped on the border and asked also to fill any kind of form, or will have to answer to some questions. And if you want to, you answer that, or
up to you.
No, because in this sense, the answer, as far as we know, is that those forms that Marina were explaining are just demanded when people is traveling by plane. If you arrive by car or by train, you are not supposed to be asked to fill in those forms. And so, as far as we know, I cannot talk in the place of the Belgian authorities at any time, but as far as we know, you won't be stopped with request to present any kind of form in the Belgian border.
What we know as well is also that depending where area are you coming from, for example, in Catalonia now, there is a very, very specific small area where they've had to go back to confinement. It is a very small area in the countryside, it's very controlled, but if for whatever the reason any traveler had been there or nearby, it's not mandatory, but it's optional to actually fill out a form saying that you've come from there and actually doing optional quarantine. But as I said, it's not mandatory. It's something that is like yourself kind of responsibility if you think that that's a thing that you think you should do. So, you know, it's something that you can request doing it, and then you would have to fill a form when you arrive to Belgium about that.
We have now a question from Jordi Martin. He's wondering what are the travel restrictions within Catalonia nowadays?
So at the moment, there is no travel restriction except for this specific area where I was just mentioning. Is like this is an area called Segria. Is like a small county that have gone back to confinement. So the citizens of that area cannot go out and no one can go in. Except, you know, like if you have to go for a specific medical reasons or work reasons. But apart from that specific area, there's completely like freedom of movement everywhere. Obviously, we would recommend that to avoid public transport if you can't. Just as common sense, obviously public transport is there's crowds going there. There's a lot of people that unconsciously sometimes might be touching. So obviously there's more risk of infection. So we would recommend avoid it if you can. However, again, like they are functioning with total normality, and there's absolutely no restrictions regarding that.
Maybe if you have it, we could show people which area are we talking about on a map, because then it's more clear that we are talking about those 9-10 municipalities in the western of Catalonia.
Yeah, so let me very briefly, I'm gonna look for the map to share.
Just to complete the information, as she said, as Marina said, there is no restriction apart from people in this concrete area, but all the roads, the motorways that pass in this area, the people can travel freely also. There's no clear restriction.
I'm just sharing the map. Actually, this map is like, it's been published by the Dutch government. And as you see, like the area we are talking about, like if you see Catalonia, it's in the northeastern region on the top, on the east. And you will see like a small spot in orange with, it says Lleida. So that is the spot with, at the moment, it's in confinement. All the rest, that triangle that is Catalonia, as you'll see, like at the moment, there's complete freedom, of move everywhere. However, as I was saying at the very beginning in my intro, this is a situation today, and we hope that, that area goes better and they can get out of confinement very soon, and it's all very controlled. But obviously, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in 2 weeks. So we would recommend before any travel to double check again, like what's the situation and what are the areas that might have a special affection or not.
In this sense, also to answer one of the questions, which are the official telephone numbers on websites available so that people can learn and have more information about the current restrictions?
Actually, like the general number that we recommend everyone to call if they have any questions while they are in Catalonia, particularly if they are health-related questions or safety-related questions, is 161. Sorry, it's 061. Okay, that's the telephone that they actually can provide assistance in many different languages. So if you call the general number, and they are going to be able to give you answer to any specific questions that you have regarding health and safety.
Perfect. And now another question from Maria. She's telling us that she's working in Luxembourg, and she's already planning to go to Catalonia on holidays in August. But she wonders if borders were to be closed again, how could she travel, or is it possible to anticipate and to plan in this sense?
I'm gonna be totally honest. It's impossible to anticipate that. Unfortunately, I wish I had a crystal ball in front of me and I could provide these answers. And I'm totally aware on how inconvenient it is, that because at the moment all the plans that we all have to do is very short term. It's very difficult to do anything mid-long term. So I'm aware of the inconvenience. What we know that up until the 31st of July, there's going to be theoretically the restrictions that exist right now. We don't know if before that, because there's some kind of, the pandemic evolved into a certain way, they might be changing that and, like publishing new rules. We don't know if rules are going to get more relaxed. We don't know if they're going to toughen up, to be honest. I'm so sorry, because I would love to be able to answer that, but it's impossible to know how things are going to go, because we are completely dependent on the evolution of this crisis and this pandemic.
Yeah, let's hope it won't happen again, to have
hopefully
to manage
not, yeah.
with a global lockdown like we had in the past months, and so we won't have to deal with a closure of all the borders. Anyway,
Hopefully not.
it's also true, Marina, if I'm not wrong, that when people arrive to Catalonia, mainly by plane, they have to fill in those forms, and then they have this commitment to follow all the um, public health authorities' recommendations. So if there is any kind of circumstance while people is in Catalonia in a place, and then there is a kind of a restriction, how do you think they should react in that way?
At the moment, as I said, like the restrictions, I'm just going to share another infographic, another visual, which gives, I think they are actually very helpful sometimes to understand what are the rules. These are like the three main kind of recommendations, safety recommendations that Catalan government, is doing at the moment. First of all, as I was saying, is the mask. You have to wear the mask at all times. It's mandatory. If you are not wearing the mask, you can have a fine of 100 euros. So it's, you're requested to wear it at all times, except for the 3 exceptions that I mentioned before. The other thing is we recommend to wash your hands, clean your hands really, really often. Really, like, it's better to exaggerate sometimes than the other way around. And then you have to keep your distance as well. Like the recommended distance that the civil protection unit is recommended is 1.5 meters. And this is at all times, like where you're walking on the street. If you go to the beach, the same, like people who might be going on holidays to the coast and they want to go to the beach. So you need to go to the beach with your mask on, and then you only have to take it off once you are lying in your towel or just, swimming in the water. But any other situation beyond that, you need to be wearing your mask, and then you need to be keeping this distance, minimum 1.5 meter distance between you and whoever other citizen is around you or next to you. Okay. So these are the 3 main rules that we ask people to follow once they are here. Also, as I said, like, because this is like fluid and things can change all the time, new restrictions might come in. We recommend that you keep checking. For example, this if you have social media, the channels from the health department, the channels from the civil protection, and even with us, with the foreign action, because we are checking pretty much daily, like what are the norms, what are the rules, the restrictions. So as I was saying earlier, like just before your travels, double check with us again, so we can keep you up with all the newest rules that might have been published.
Thank you very much, Marina. And there are many others questions. Julia Garofalo, she's wondering if we know if there are restrictions to move to the Balearic Islands. Of course, we are talking today about Catalonia. We cannot.
I have to say, I'm not an expert on Balearic Islands. I have to admit it.
But as far as we know, there isn't any concrete proposed now.
It's as far as we know, it's similar to the rules we have in here right now. Yeah.
From Chelsea Garder, sorry for the pronunciation, several days ago, he demands us if people have to wear masks when they're traveling to Catalonia by bus or by car, and what are the rules inside hotels, restaurants, and other public places like that.
You have to just take it like this. You need to wear your mask all the time, except if you are eating, if you are smoking, or if you are doing exercise. So any other thing that are those 3 activities, you need to be wearing a mask. So yeah, you need to be wearing a mask on public transport, including the bus. You need to be wearing your mask inside restaurants, inside clubs, inside bars, inside any indoor space. And obviously, if it's a restaurant, once you sit down, then obviously you can take it off. but you will see like all the waiters and waitresses are wearing a mask. You know, all this stuff we'll be doing, we'll be wearing that mask. And in your car, depending if you are alone with your partner, with your family, obviously not. Once you get off the car, yes, put it on. If you are in the car that with people that are not part of your family members, then yes, I would recommend it to wear it. But obviously that's very personal. Then you need to have your own judgment on who is going with you on the car.
Thank you, Marina. Now there is a question from Daniel Casas. He's wondering if there are flights being cancelled with destination to Barcelona. And as far as we know, not at all. Of course, all the flights that were before the crisis, they are not nowadays being active. There are less flights than before, and there are now more or less 5 flights per day. And as far as we know, the cancellations that were quite usual, we already know a few weeks or months ago. Nowadays, they are quite stable, or there is a normal development of all those flights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, for the experience of the people that has basically traveled recently, no one has reported problems. It's true that there was a period of time, I think it was, mid-March to mid-April, more or less, that, yeah, like they're basically like the airspaces were closed. And so a lot of airlines just canceled flights. But even like that, after all, when still a lot of airlines were not flying, Brussels was actually one of the few destinations that was still having one flight a day to Barcelona. So yeah, obviously we cannot predict the future, and airlines, sometimes can be a bit unpredictable. But what we can say is that so far we have not noticed anyone having that problem.
Thank you. And another question from Cristina Vilan. She wonders if she arrives at the airport of Prat, can someone go there to pick her up, or she will have to take a taxi, or how does it roll now?
At the moment, yes. At the moment, there's no problem. She can get picked up. I guess she's asking that because basically that changed just a few weeks ago. Up until like I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, actually that was forbidden. But at the moment, it's possible. But again, we don't know if that might change. Hopefully not. Just before you take off, check up with us, and then we'll let you know if there's been any change. Okay.
Perfect. Another question from Sergio Lopez. He's wondering if tourists from all countries are allowed to travel to Catalonia nowadays, or if there is any kind of restriction in some countries.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again?
If tourists from all countries, all different countries, are allowed to travel to Barcelona, to Catalonia, or if there is any kind of restriction with some countries.
Mm-hmm. There's actually, yes, there are restrictions. At the moment, the only people that are allowed to come in are nationals or permanent residents of any EU country or Schengen area. So those have completely like free entry. There's complete freedom of movement. And then there is an extra 12 countries, and we call it third countries or non-EU countries that are also allowed to come in, obviously with the regular like tourist visas that they have to do as usual. We can send you, we can send you across the list of those countries, like here, like on top of my head, I can remember it's Australia, Canada, Georgia, Uruguay, there's a few more, like Japan, New Zealand. It's a total of 12 countries. Actually, this is a little change that we have in compared with the rest of Europe, because for the rest of Europe are 15 countries. There was a recommendation of this list of 15 countries that it was recommended, but then Spain decided that there would be 3 countries that would actually, they are a bit left in a little bit of limbo, to say it somehow, which are China, Algeria, and Morocco. because basically it's going to be linked to reciprocity. So if those three countries decide that they're going to allow Spanish nationals to go in, then Spain are going to allow their nationals to come into Spanish territory as well. So for the rest, the list expands to 12 countries outside the EU.
Now a practical question from Inés Zulia. He wonders if it's safe to plan trips from some months ahead, or if you would recommend to booking only a few weeks or a few days before traveling. What would you recommend?
So say again, sorry.
With a long, if it's safe to plan with some months ahead, so with a long-term planning, or if it's better to book in some few weeks or days before you are going to make it.
Okay, that is going to be a personal opinion, so I'm warning in advance. I would recommend at the moment to do short-term planning, because we just don't know what might happen, like, long-term. I mean, if someone is planning a trip a month in advance, 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance, it's practically impossible to actually know what's going to happen in that period. We know what's going to happen in the next 2-3 weeks, more or less, and even like that, we don't even know for sure. So obviously, I know it's not ideal, but at the moment, unfortunately, we can only plan short term.
Now, there is another question still, wondering from Meritxell Serret if there is public transport working normally in Catalonia. Is everything going in a normal way? Trains, buses?
Yes, public transport is functioning completely normal. With planes, well, that depends completely on airlines. It's very difficult for us to know that. Every airline has their own decisions. I mean, we know obviously that a lot of routes have been reestablished, especially within Europe. But yeah, for the rest, any public transport within Catalonia, it's functioning with absolute normality.
I think we have answered all the questions that our public were making. So would you like to add some other information that you think it would be interesting for our public to know about traveling to Catalonia in the coming days?
To be honest, I think that we have covered a lot. I think our audience have actually, have to be sent a very diverse question, so that has allowed to pretty much cover it all. Actually, what I would do is just to stress again, the need to be responsible. I think obviously at the moment we all, it's summer and we deserve holidays. It's been tough the last month in a lot of different ways, and obviously we all also want to make sure that the economy runs if possible, but also we always need to find the balance as well with like public health and public safety, to make sure that our citizens are are on a safe space. So the only thing that I can do is just travel responsibly, like just wherever you go, just check what are the rules, the safety rules, and just keep them please, because I think it's the only way to at least try to guarantee that we try to stop this pandemic and this crisis of spreading around. So that would be the only thing that I would add, just please travel responsibly.
Very good. There was a last time question, and from Eduard Salvador. He's wondering which is the situation in the metropolitan area of Barcelona, and he wonders if he could have any kind of problem to go back to Belgium if he decides to go to Catalonia.
At the moment, no. At the moment, the situation is normal in the city. Obviously, everyone is wearing masks, and with all the safety rules or recommendations that I have mentioned during the webinar. So obviously, you know, we'll arrive here and pretty much everyone will be wearing a mask and trying to keep distance and be very careful. But apart from that, the rest is normal. A lot of people obviously, you know, working from home. So, and there's not as much tourism as perhaps we are used to. So streets are much emptier. But apart from that, the situation at the moment is normal. Obviously, we don't know. We don't know if in 2 weeks it's going to be different. Hopefully not. But it's impossible to to reassure you about that. The same for going back to Belgium. At the moment, there shouldn't be any problem if you are coming from Barcelona. In 2 weeks' time, in a month's time, in 2 months' time, it's impossible to say. We just need to keep looking daily at what is the evolution of everything.
Perfect. I think now it's it was the last question. So if you if everybody is okay, I think it's time to finish this webinar by mainly another one. Another one from Julia Garopalo, and she wonders if can Italian nationals based in Brussels fly from Italy to Barcelona and then from Barcelona to Ibiza and from Ibiza to Belgium?
Yes, at the moment, as things are now, yes, because any national of an EU country can have absolute, you know, there's freedom of movement. It's like you usually used to do. The thing is like, just make sure that in every stop, you know, in each stop, you check what are the safety rules in place, okay? So apart from that recommendation, at the moment, today, you should not have any problem with doing that super route.
Nice super route.
Nice super route, yeah.
And I hope if he does it, he will enjoy it very much. All the Mediterranean area, because it will be a Mediterranean route fully. Well, again, I think it's time to close this webinar. Thank you very much, Marina, for all your wise recommendations and all this rich information. And again, we invite all people that want to travel to Catalonia to visit this its land, its coast, and to taste its rich gastronomy and enjoy the culture and enjoy its people. Please feel free. Feel always welcome, but of course, take care. Take care. Watch up all the recommendations from the health authorities, and take care for your health and your safety, and for the health and safety of all the people, all the rest of your citizens. That we are all facing this pandemic, and we are sure that only we will be able to overcome it only if we do all together also. And again, thank you very much for your attendance, for your time, and take care, and see you in Catalonia. Hope. Bye.
See you in Catalonia. Bye.